Are you ready to rewind? Take a nostalgia-filled ride back to a simpler time. It's Acid Wash Memories, a retro pop culture celebration. And now your hosts, Joe Murata and Michael Quinn.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 107 of Acid Wash Memories, a retro pop culture celebration. Today, finally, we are talking about the Three Stooges. My name is Joe Murata, and this knucklehead over here is Michael Quinn. How you doing there, Michael?
Howdy doody. It's Stooges time.
It is Stooges time.
The Stooges subculture will be addressed here today,
Finally,
right?
Once and for all. I know a lot of people have been waiting for this one, and thank you guys for not giving us the old eye poke while we made you wait.
Oh, I can't see! I can't see!
What's the matter?
I got my eyes closed. Ah!
It is time to talk all about the Three Stooges. All six of the Three Stooges.
Yes, all six of them.
All six of them.
That's my favorite part about it.
It'll be an education for you casual Stooges fans out there.
Like me.
Of which Quinn is one.
Yes.
And hopefully it'll be fun for those of you that are more into the finer details of the Three Stooges. The Stooge Maniacs.
This will be a Joe explains to Quinn the Stooge idiot episode.
Okay.
And we'll see where the conversation goes.
I like that, Quinn. And one thing you guys can do is follow the conversation over to Twitter at AWM Podcast. Mm-hmm. You can also join our very, very friendly Facebook group.
So friendly.
Acid Wash Memories on Facebook. And that's really it for the particulars, right?
Right. Everything all right? Right.
The Three Stooges, as I'm sure everyone listening knows at least a little bit about, they have been like in the background of like the pop culture scenery for like 100 years almost.
They're like, 100 years. Is it 100 now?
Almost.
Like, oh my goodness.
We're getting close.
Yeah, they always exist back there. They're like a point of reference of very basic comedy.
They're an influence on a lot of people, but not like an explicit influence sometimes.
Yeah, because I don't even think nowadays people even give a shit about the Stooges. Let's be real.
I'm a victim of circumstance.
I think that there are still like pockets of fans my age, our age, late 30s, 40s, younger.
So,
but it's not like they're a phenomenon now.
Well, it has a lot to do also with the decline of television. I feel like because the Stooges, they were one of those, we can put the Stooges on for a half an hour or some shit.
Since the late 50s,
right?
They've been on TV.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
But once that goes away, they're starting to become like lost.
You have to seek them out rather than just have them fed to you on television.
And then how do you even get like an interest in that, right?
It's true. No, you're absolutely right. But there was a time, folks, where they were in the foreground of entertainment, which is what we're going to cover.
They even had a video game.
They had video games. They've had reboot movies and things. We'll talk all about that. Now, they're easily identifiable. They have this broad-reaching humor. It's been imitated. It's been lampooned. It's been paid tribute to.
You must be the three chiropractors I sent for. Now start manipulating my spine.
Hey, Mo, we don't know nothing about manipulating.
You heard the lady. Grab a spine and get cracking.
Mo is their leader.
I want to be clear here. The Three Stooges themselves weren't necessarily what you would call like pioneers. There were other comedy acts at their time that were more inventive, more respected, more artistic. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But I mean, were they really going for artistic? Like,
no.
Yeah, I don't really ever get that from the Stooges from what I see. It's like vaudevillian slapstick. Like,
that's exactly
that's
what
all
it was.
it is.
They were going for that one word, funny. That's all they were going for. Mm-hmm. You know how, I'll give you this example. You know how you love season 8 and 9 of Seinfeld?
Yeah.
Aren't there the purists that are like, this isn't as good?
They always crap on it. It's so annoying.
But what did Jerry Seinfeld want out of those last 2 seasons? For it to be funny.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah.
That was the goal. And that's what the Stooges were. And that's why for this last almost 100 years, they've endured in their own way as an American institution because their comedy is timeless. And this is their story. The Three Stooges. 6 of them. Ask a casual person like Quinn, right, to name the Three Stooges, and you'll almost assuredly have who, Quinn?
Larry, Moe, and Curly.
That's it, right?
That's who I think of as the Stooges.
And listen,
there is no other Stooges in my head, although people in the last, I want to say like 15, 20 years of like, hey, did you know there was Shemp and like all this shit, right? Is like
I'm one of them.
Yes.
I'm one of them. Now, there's a good reason why it's Moe, Larry, and Curly that are known by almost, like everyone listening here, that's probably the first 3 that pop into their heads unless they're a major Shemp fan.
You double-crossing.
And you know what? I think a lot of this has to do with a few factors. Curly had the biggest personality out of all of them.
Yeah.
He's also the most unique out of all
Now,
of them.
did you ever, as a kid, it very much confused me that Curly was like bald or whatever, but Larry, who's got curly hair, was not called Curly.
As a little kid, yes.
I was always like, which one's which? I don't fucking know.
Yeah,
like,
as a little kid, that confused me.
I know this. You know, it's funny to this day. Actually, when I watch the Stooges, if you put any one of them in front of me, I wouldn't know which one's name was.
Not
what.
even Mo.
No.
Wow.
Because to me, they're like interchangeable. Like they're known as Larry, Moe, and Curly, the Three Stooges, but I don't fucking know which one's which.
Wow. Okay.
Right?
Well, at least you're being honest here.
And I want to say that I feel like I'm admitting this because I think there's other people.
Possibly. Folks, we want to know your involvement with the Stooges. Are you like Quinn and you know who they are and you've seen them?
Right.
Are you like me and you're a big Three Stooges fan? I mean, I've been since I've had memories. You know what I mean? My dad loved them. I loved them. We want to hear from both of these extremes and anywhere in between. We're not here, by the way, I want to be very clear, to tell detailed biographies of each individual Stooge.
Right.
Although I will say on the record here on this program, only a couple people listening, right?
Right.
I recently finished the brand new Shemp Howard biography.
The book?
It's a book.
You read the whole book?
I got it on my phone. But yeah,
boy.
Then I also reread Curly's, which is from the 80s, and I have Larry's biography in hard format.
That's kind of crazy.
That's how much I love the Stooges. Is the point I'm trying to make here.
Read page 4.
Oh, see the little deer. Has the deer a little doe?
Yeah, $2. Oh.
We're here to really discuss an overview of their trajectory, each individual Stooge briefly, and why they caught on and why they matter today.
Yeah.
That's what we're here to do.
Also,
okay?
I'm also interested. These guys make money off this? Like, did this do good? Like,
that's a very good question that will be answered. But we can't discuss any of the Stooges without first setting the table of the entertainment business in general in the early 20th century. Quinn, as you and I have discussed a lot of times on this show, vaudeville was very much still alive at the turn of the century.
Yes, vaudeville. It was like an area in New York or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Where there was entertainment.
Variety.
The problem is that other forms of entertainment came along. People were like, F that. And then the vaudeville people started leaking into because they needed a job, right?
Exactly. That would be around the time in the 20s where the silent films became audible. That definitely had a lot to do with
the
it.
late 20s, yes.
Yeah, the late 20s. The
29 or whatever.
Around that time. Now, one popular stage act in the 20s was headed up by a comedian known as Ted Healy. And he had started in vaudeville in 1915.
What is this? Now think. Concentrate.
Ted Healy is not somebody that you would hear a lot about unless it's in the context of the Stooges, but this guy actually was a big star in the 20s and in the 30s, okay? And he had started on vaudeville, like I said, 1915, and by the 20s, around 22, his act included a bit in it where he would be trying to sing or tell jokes, only to have someone heckle him from the audience.
Aha.
That heckler was a young, aspiring performer born Harry Moses Horowitz, and by this point known as Mo Howard.
Mo Howard.
Mo Howard, okay?
Yes, there's our first Stooge.
That's our first Stooge. So he was born 1897, Brooklyn.
That makes sense based off, these
sounds old.
These are people, we're talking real early here. These are people that were born in like the 1880s and the 1890s. Like that, they were like us, basically, like leaking into the next century.
Exactly.
Right? It's like they were born in the 80s back then, right?
That's a good point. In the 90s, you're right. Now, he was the fourth of five brothers. The other three at the time were Irving, Jack, and Samuel, and one more was on the way. He had wanted to be in show business as a teenager, and he teamed up with another one of his brothers in the mid-19-teens as part of a minstrel show where they were known as Howard and Howard. The other brother, Samuel Horowitz, who was 2 years older, and by this point known as Shemp Howard.
Yes, Shemp.
You want to know how he got his name?
How?
So his parents were immigrants from Lithuania, and his mom had a very thick accent.
Okay.
So when she would say Shem, sometimes it would come out Shem,
or Shemp,
and a P got added on, and Shemp's friends caught onto it.
Now I have to say, Joe is showing me a picture right now of these guys.
There are visual aids
here. They
here.
didn't look like idiots at one point in their life.
I resemble that remark.
So they were both in show business. And with Shemp working elsewhere, Mo joined up with Ted Healy, like we just talked about. Or so the story goes, and I'm throwing this in for the hardcores. It's a very difficult road. Some people say that Moe was the first Stooge, but there's this alternate story that Shemp was actually first because it's like over 100 years ago.
Right.
All the details are kind of muddy. We're going with Moe being the first one, okay?
Well, it's not the days where people had like phones and they could record things down. For all we know, Shemp was like, hey, we should do this bit. And like it was like his idea or something, right? It's like you don't know what was going on in their probably like tiny tenement apartment or whatever, like
in Brooklyn.
Right? It's like
that's true. All we do know is that by the mid-1920s, Shemp and Moe were both part of Ted Healy's act. Okay, so you had Ted Healy, you had Moe Howard, you had his older brother, Shemp Howard. And I want to be clear about Ted Healy's act real quick. It wasn't just like him and these two Stooges. He was doing like a whole variety show with music and dancing and stuff. This was just a part of it. Was this like they'd basically be a pain in the ass and he would slap him around.
Right. To me, that's like very quintessential vaudeville, this variety thing, right? Where there's bits. It's like there's like a main character, but there's a ton of bits and like extra people and shit, right?
And that's basically what it was. They were just sidemen.
Yeah.
He was the star. And like I said, he's forgotten these days, but he was an honest-to-goodness influence on a lot of famous comedians of their time. You know who one of the comedians that calls him an influence is?
Who?
Henny Youngman.
Oh, for the love of crispy fried ass? You mean now I gotta say, her? Yeah, where'd you get that joke? Ted Healy? Good God, would somebody stop the damn show? Who's Shemp anyway? Fucking asshole.
When is Henny Youngman from, though?
After Ted Healy, believe it or not. That's why it's crazy.
Henny Youngman's like 100 years old.
That's what I'm saying, but that's how far back this guy goes, you know?
Wow.
Now,
so Ted Healy was like the godfather of comedy or something, right?
His act was fresh and different at the time, which is why it was successful.
I'm sure there's been comedy since, I don't know, Roman Greek times or whatever.
You think they told jokes? They probably told jokes, right?
In the amphitheater, of course. There had to be a comedy set. Comedy is like one of the base like theater arts, I believe.
It is drama and comedy. Maybe they would lift their toga and moon people.
Yeah, maybe.
Or
who knows?
Luna people or whatever they called it back then. But
back then,
anyway.
they could talk more meanly too. Like there wasn't like restrictions on language.
They were very curt.
Yeah, they could be curt back in those days.
Folks, let us know your favorite Roman jokes. Do that at AWM Podcast on
Or if
Twitter.
you want to go even further back, ancient Greek.
Yeah, your Greece jokes.
300 BC jokes.
Ooh, how about your ancient Egyptian jokes? Ooh. We want to know what they were telling back then. Anyway, Moe left the act in 1925. He actually quit showbiz for a few years, had a kid, went into real estate. So Shemp stayed on with Ted Healy. And in
probably a better bet, by the way, going into real estate.
Oh, Moe was notoriously very smart with his money.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, if I gave you $1 and your father gave you $1, how many dollars would you have?
$1.
You don't know your arithmetic.
You don't know my father.
So by 1928, Shemp went to a show just as a spectator at a place called the Rainbow Gardens, and he saw a comedic music and dance routine by a comedic violinist from Philadelphia named Louis Feinberg, who was by this point known as Larry Fine.
Larry Fine, there you go.
Now,
there he is.
I want to talk about Larry now.
This I like, and I get paid for it too.
Larry, for those of you that don't know, he's the one with the big frizzy hair.
Right.
Typically known as the middle stooge, right? Because you have Moe, the domineering leader with the bowl cut that slaps everyone around. And then you have usually Curly, sometimes Shemp, as the more childlike, more innocent, like the likable one.
Right, yeah.
And Larry was always just kind of like the observer that like he talks sometimes. He's not silent.
I personally observed Larry as the smart one in the crew. Like
he's more like the only sane
the
man.
Hothead.
Yeah.
And Curly's just an idiot.
Yeah, Curly's dopey.
Yeah.
And one thing about Larry, he's actually my favorite because he doesn't say a lot, but his facial expressions, he's a very, very underrated comedian. Like he just, the way he will pull a face, the way he will like his timing with Moe.
Are you listening?
1, 2, 2.5. Quiet.
Hey, you know, I think she's uglier than you are.
Yeah, well, she's got...
What?
Oh! I better have another drink. I can still see her face.
Quiet.
He's really, really underrated. He's quiet. He's more in the background. He's kind of like, once you've been in the Stooges for a while, you like Larry.
I like Larry. I never minded him. He's just like the window dressing on the Stooges, right? He's the background.
Yeah, because a lot of comedy teams, you know, Laurel and Hardy, Abbott and Costello, right?
Yeah, it would be weird if he wasn't there.
Right, if it Moe and Curly.
Right.
One other thing about Larry, you know Billy West, the voice of Ren from Ren and Stimpy?
Oh, really?
He's doing a Larry Fine impression. The voice of Stimpy, not Ren, Stimpy. I'm sorry.
Oh, Stimpy. I never put that together though.
Yeah, Stimpy is a Larry Fine impression. Huh. Yes, it's real.
Which was based on a Larry Fine from the Three Stooges.
What's the matter with him? I'm still in one piece.
His voice was so sublime. Everybody could do Mo and everybody could do Curly, but nobody could do Larry. No one even cared about him. But I went nuts the little that he said.
We gotta help him.
He'd say hey Mo, you put too much tinsel on the tree. And John said to me, I don't want him to sound like a depressed old Jewish guy. So we pitched him up. And he became very high-pitched, and he could adhere better to the parameters of a cartoon universe. Where it'd be like, will you button me, Ren?
Around the same time that Larry was discovered in the late 20s, Mo was making his way back into the show business. Okay,
making a comeback for Mo.
Yes, wanted Mo money, I guess.
You don't have to overdo it.
Sorry. And by 1930, the most popular part of Ted Healy's act was now Howard, Fine, and Howard, known as Ted Healy and his Racketeers, or sometimes Ted Healy and his Southern Gentlemen. So we have Mo, Larry.
We're just using mafia terms.
Yeah, the Racketeers.
Just openly.
They were.
It is the heyday, Joe.
There's so much hay. Oh my God! Around 1930, the amount of hay that there was,
especially for the mafia.
A lot of horses too. Yeah. Sometimes a head of a horse in the bed.
Tastes like a dead horse.
Anyway, they were not known as the Three Stooges. I just want to be clear.
Why didn't Mr. Healy figure that out?
He did eventually, Ted Healy and his Stooges.
I like this picture you have up. I'd never even seen them that young together.
Yeah, so the one we're looking at is from right around 1930, where Mo has come back. Larry's now part of the act. And one of the things that was big about this version, once Larry joined, is the reviews of Ted Healy's vaudeville shows, his theater shows. Reviews, obviously, in the newspaper is what I'm referring to.
I mean, where else would you?
Right.
No internet.
Right. They were singling out the Stooge portions as the best part.
I'm sure Healy was not pleased by this.
He wasn't, and he was, because he was like, well, then let's pare down the rest of this show and let's gear it towards me and these three other guys.
I guess, yeah, you're in a weird position if you're Healy, right?
Yes.
You've been a star for a while by this point.
Yes.
It's like, oh, I have to do less work and I get most of the money because I'm the band leader, essentially.
Pretty much, yeah.
You know?
And just to give you an idea of what his character was, Ted Healy played what Mo would later become, which is the domineering one, like the boss one that slaps everyone around. That's what he was. So, like, Mo was more of generic.
Right.
He wasn't the leader, you know what I mean?
Not yet.
Not yet. At this same time, as we enter the 30s, famous teams such as Laurel and Hardy already existed. The Marx Brothers existed. So it's not like the Stooges were even the first team with brothers in it to be famous. You know what I mean? The Marx Brothers have been around since like the teens, I think.
Right.
As a famous troupe.
Yeah, comedy teams have been around. So
right. The Ritz Brothers, who are not famous today, but they were a thing, right?
Are they famous for the crackers?
I hope so, actually,
Yeah.
Quinn. And slapstick itself wasn't new. These guys weren't groundbreaking. I just want to be very clear. But you know what it was? They were very good at what they did.
They were good. They were consistent.
Yes. Because one thing about comedy is timing, right? It's all about timing. If you're late on a joke, if you're late on a slap in slapstick, it falls flat.
I would imagine, right, is like the Stooges, they were like a package act. Like they knew their thing, right?
Yes.
I would imagine if you went to see the Ted Healy version back in the 20s and the 30s or whatever.
Yep.
That it's almost very similar to the one you would see later in the 40s and the 50s.
You know what's true, Quinn, is they actually made films with Healy, and you're completely right.
Yeah, that they're like, it's the same bit.
It's the same bits.
Yeah.
It's because it's comedy. It doesn't get old. So their first feature film was as a small part in, you ever hear of Rube Goldberg? He produced this.
You mean the guy that made the Rube Goldberg machine?
Yeah, that one, right.
Yeah.
Bill Goldberg's grandfather.
Yeah.
Bret Hart doesn't like Rube Goldberg either.
Right.
Yeah, I always thought I could have built a better machine than Rube Goldberg, you know, my dad, he built our washing machine out of 3 metal fans, a squirt bottle, and a live duck.
Anyway, Soup to Nuts, it was called in 1930, and the part with Healy and the Stooges involved them playing firemen.
You big donkey, you!
Don't call me a donkey, you big ox. It's the girlfriend, a lady of very few words.
Say hello for us.
Give her my regards.
Me too.
The boys say hello.
Oh, yeah? Well, those 3 mugs are the scum of the earth.
She speaks very highly of you boys.
She always did like us.
Yeah, she likes you.
If you've never seen this, you want to, first of all, see Shemp on film the first time around.
Right. Also, like, looking pretty clean here. Not they look less idiot-like.
Yeah, they have like the normal hair.
Right.
All the hair is like slick.
It's weird because there is this point where they sink into like, oh, we look stupid all the time.
Yes. No, that comes a couple of years later.
Yeah.
They always look stupid from there on out, right? So look up Soup to Nuts, folks. It was an MGM film that Rube Goldberg produced, and the Stooges are in it with Shemp.
Right.
And you get to see a little taste of the Ted Healy version of the Stooges. So, in 1930, right after this film came out, the Stooges split with Ted Healy. They wanted to hack it on their own.
Big time now.
And you know what it was? It goes back to what you said earlier, where Ted Healy wasn't happy about something because Fox Films, this is before they were even 20th Century Fox.
Jeez.
The Fox Film Corporation. They offered a contract, Quinn.
Okay.
To only the Three Stooges.
Uh-oh.
And Healy was very upset about that.
Well, I mean, he worked all his life. Finally, the movies are saying, make movies. And now we don't want you. We just want the Stooges.
They just wanted the Stooges.
Cut. You ain't shooting the picture right.
So they did split with him. And Moe, Larry, and Shemp, on their own, were billed as Howard, Fine, and Howard, or the Three Lost Souls. Okay?
Still no Stooge yet.
No. And this is the period of time where they started to look stupid.
Yeah, the hair is happening.
Yes,
now.
It's happening. If you're
early 30s, we got the hair.
Stooges hair tracker, early 30s, okay? Yeah. Now, they did the theater circuit, and they did okay without Ted Healy. Ted Healy did the theater circuit and hired replacement Stooges, and guess what? They didn't do that well.
Well, I mean...
So it says something.
They were the golden goose, the Stooges.
They were. Right? But guess what? Moe and Larry and Shemp were like, you know what? We were doing better with Ted Healy. Why don't we make amends? And they went back with Ted Healy.
Oh, really?
Yes.
They made up. It's like a happy story.
1932. And then guess what happened?
What?
Shemp decided to leave the act.
Scram!
Here's where things get interesting, right? Because Shemp, who everyone's like, oh, Shemp, the original or whatever.
I will not hear the negative word about Sam Horowitz.
It's saying something that we haven't even gotten to Prime Stooges yet.
We haven't,
now
though.
Shemp is gone.
We haven't. That's true. Now, there's a long-standing story that Shemp was like sick of Ted Healy because he drank a lot in his attitude. But the general consensus today in 2025 is that he just wanted to be a solo star.
Shemp.
Much to Quinn's surprise and bewilderment, I'm sure. Now, he was all over in the 30s and 40s. So to replace him, Moe looked to his own family. And that would be the youngest of the 5 Horowitz brothers, Jerome Lester Horowitz, who was known as Babe because he was the baby of the family, born in 1903, actually in the 20th century. So he idolized Moe and Larry. Always wanted to break into show business like his 2 older brothers, Moe and Shemp, right? And he had normal, nice hair, right?
Yes.
He wasn't really a big fat guy or anything.
Yeah.
However, he decided to shave his hair, although he kept his mustache that he had for a little while.
Yeah, it's not like he bicked it. It's just like super short.
Super short hair. And ironically called himself Curly.
Right.
Because
curly.
he had no hair.
Therefore, now I'm extra confused because there's a guy with really curly hair standing right next to him.
Exactly. So Healy, Moe, Larry, and now the youngest of the Howard brothers, Curly Howard, has joined the team.
If at first you don't succeed, keep on sucking till you do succeed.
In 1933, MGM offered Ted Healy and his Stooges a contract, which included appearances in full-length films, not starring roles, but appearances in, right?
They ain't going to star in.
No. But here's what they did get to star in. 2 real comedies. Now, we talked about a couple of episodes ago in the history of the movie theater.
Right.
And they were shown before a feature, right? Not as a standalone thing.
Yeah.
The reason for that is because they were cheaply made and they didn't have high star power.
Right. They're just the bullshit while people are like walking in.
Right. It's just shit that they play so you get your money's worth, basically, right?
They give people time to like buy stuff from concessions, essentially.
Yeah. It is, though. It's true. If you're late, you're not missing much. So they weren't looked upon as like these like distinguished pieces of film,
Yeah, I don't think so. Yeah,
to star in a two-reeler.
Look at it. Come on, Joe. Even like as much as you love them, you have to admit this is really like lowbrow bullshit, right?
What is this? The days of like Clark Gable and shit like that, like with people slapping each other around.
Yeah,
it's a totally different thing, right?
I always felt bad for the like other people in the Stooges movies, because, I mean, this is some low-ass shit.
It is. I mean, Quinn is right, despite the fact that the Stooges are beloved and remembered.
There's always like a female character, and I'm like, did she get to be in anything important after this, or is now you just like pigeonholed into being Stooge movies? Like, what?
A lot of them are studio players that just do like all the two reels from the time, not just Stooge ones, like all of the two reelers.
And same with whoever the like antagonist is for the Stooges. It's like, who the fuck is this guy?
There's a bunch of famous. I'm throwing the names out there for the Stooge fans, like Vernon Dent and Bud Jameson. Yeah, but you're absolutely right. Absolutely right, Quinn. So there was a handful of MGM films with Ted Healy and the Stooges. There was The Big Idea. There was Nursery Rhymes. There was Beer and Pretzels.
Who belongs to this?
I don't know. What
are you going to do with it?
The thing to do is to take it and divide it up equally.
Yeah, we're only stalling around for something to eat, ain't we?
Certainly. Hiya, Chief. And don't talk back to the head waiter. You hear me, don't you, son? Don't talk back to the head waiter. And the customers are always right. There's an old saying, heavy, heavy, what hangs over thy head. Back to the post, boys.
And this, again, was the Ted Healy-led version of the act. But with the real Three Stooges, these are not nearly as good as the ones that people are familiar with.
Right.
You know, the regular Three Stooge films.
The regular kind.
The regular kind. And they were only moderately successful. Okay. So in 1934, with the MGM contract up, the Three Stooges, Quinn, made their final split with Ted Healy, this time on friendly mutual terms. So the Stooges signed a brand new contract with a brand new studio, this time Columbia Pictures, right?
Columbia Pictures.
Columbia Pictures.
And now their deal here was strictly for two reel comedies, which, like we said, were shown at the beginning of features.
This would be their bread and butter, I would say.
This is their bread and butter. Their first one for Columbia, with Moe, Larry, and Curly, was a musical short known as Women Haters.
Musical novelty, as it says.
Yes.
Come on, explain yourself, and you better do it quick.
Breaking into my room this way is the lowest kind of a trick.
But darling.
Darling?
Oh, I forgot. I thought I was talking to you.
Me? Where do you get that stuff? What are you trying to do? What are you doing here with this gal? That's what I want to know.
Come on outside and I'll tell you.
All right, come on, let's go.
This is one where they spoke completely in rhyme, and it's very weird, and they never did this again, and I'm glad they didn't, because I don't like this one.
That's dumb.
Now,
that's the most artistic the Stooges get, I think.
I know. Now, we're going to talk about just a handful of really standout Curly ones. I'm just going to run down the names, but this is the golden era, starting in 1934. The second one was called Punch Drunks, is where Curly is a boxer. I think most people are like vaguely familiar with that premise, right?
Did that one make it into the video game also?
Yes, it's where like Larry's playing Pop Goes the Weasel on his violin, and it like riles Curly up.
Right.
And Moe's like, hey, we can make some money with this. And by this point, Moe is strictly Moe. Like, he's the leader now, like the schemer.
I mean, okay, I'll say this to you about the Stooges. I feel like while Moe is the leader, they're all fucking idiots, so I never felt like there is a leader in a
Moe's
weird
still
way.
an idiot. He just doesn't think he is.
He's the one who thinks he's smart,
Yes.
but he's just as dumb as the other two.
He's cousin Larry. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Like, that's why I said I feel like Larry's the true genius in the pack.
I kind of agree. One of my favorite ones is 1934's Men in Black. It's where they play doctors, another famous trope for them, where they basically have graduated with the highest temperatures in their class, and they're very, very funny.
Take this carriage out. I'll take it when I'm ready. Are you ready? Yeah, I'm ready. All right.
How'd you find the patient in 72?
Up on a chandelier.
What'd you do for him? Nothing. What'd you ever do for us? Cotton. Cotton! What are you working here for?
For duty and humanity.
Three Little Pigskins, starring Lucille Ball.
Yeah, there you go. There's somebody who actually made it out of this crap.
Yes,
like
and this
Lucy.
was crap, though. Like,
Yeah.
let's just be clear.
Yeah.
This was crap.
I can't stress enough how, like, every time I watch a Stooges flick, I'm like, this is the lowest budget bullshit I've ever seen. Like,
Quinn's completely right. I want to be clear about this.
low budget for Hollywood back then. Let's just put it that way.
These were not well received by critics, any of these.
Who's even, like, critiquing
Well,
this? Like,
you know what I mean. Because their medium was low, like... Okay, listen, you had big Hollywood productions, right? You had your big studios doing feature films, a lot of times by the 30s in Technicolor, by the later 30s, right? Then you had a lower echelon that included B-movies.
Yeah, B-movies.
Westerns were like not well regarded because there were like a dime a dozen.
Or Stagecoach and all that.
Right. And then you had your two real comedies, which were like even more lowly regarded. Like, these are paperback
we're like
books.
A step above Ed Wood here. Like, if we're being honest. Like
we are though. We're a step.
One step.
Yeah.
Not any more steps, just one.
One step.
Right.
But the audiences loved them, and that's kind of what mattered, right? Like, the people loved them.
It is interesting to think that Lucy was at a point where she was like in a Stooges movie.
She really was.
Right.
We talked about her, when we did I Love Lucy.
Right.
She really didn't have much going on in the 30s. Like, It took a while for her to build something.
Which is rare for a female actress back then, right?
Yes, because normally
she was like in her prime.
She was in her prime, Platinum Blonde on Purpose and all that. There's also Pop Goes the Easel, where they do art. They sneak into a thing and do art. There's Hoi Polloi, which is their notable trope. And they would do this like several times, where they have to like mix into high society.
Now, Prof, I don't mean to misrepresentation or cast malar jurisdiction upon you by using such high influential language, but
he means it's okay.
I think that's adapted from what, Pygmalion or like one of those ancient things.
I feel like that's such an easy one for the Stooges because they are morons. Like, just the concept of them being in high society is ridiculous on its face. And look at their hair.
I know, let alone their hair, right?
Yeah.
But they always play this so well because it's a parody, right? So like the high society people are extra snobby and
they're not even realistic. They're like, oh,
yeah, they speak with like the big transatlantic accents.
I'm sure they have the cigarette in the holder thing,
right,
like
the monocle,
the top hat, like, all this bullshit,
right? And then the students are like, you knucklehead, you just spread out, and hitting each other, and it's very basic humor. And one of the things about the Stooges is we talk, especially the Curly era, because it was like the outskirts of the Depression and getting into like pre-war, right? Before World War II in the 30s, is a lot of their shorts of the 30s involve them being very poor, the Three Stooges.
So they relate to the
they're the commoners, right?
The worst depression in the history of the world. Like, a lot of people did not have money.
Right. And they're always looking for a way to either make money or they are well-meaning.
Yeah.
And things backfire.
It's like classic like get rich quick schemes and stuff like that. Like almost like fucking Family Matters or something.
Yeah,
like,
or Perfect Strangers.
Yeah.
Or The Honeymooners or anything. And a lot of times they have these blue collar jobs that they're very bad at.
Right.
They're painters, they're plumbers, they're hunters,
I do tend to notice there's this theme of like it shows them at their regular jobs and they're fucking idiots.
Yeah,
like,
they're always terrible at them.
Like on an
almost
assembly
always.
line and they break something or like some shit like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
They're always just like in this like everyday situation, but they somehow can't even handle that.
Right. But we can make $1 million or something. Like, it's like, what?
And a lot of the times their plans don't work. Almost never. But sometimes things work out well. Another thing I want to mention about the shorts here while we're still in the Curly era is there's a common misconception amongst very casual fans, even more than you, Quinn, that this was a TV series. It was not a TV series. These are not TV episodes. These were films. And as such...
There was no TV.
Right. But even like in the 40s and 50s, right? As such, they are not ever playing the same characters. That's why it's like they're doing this job in this film and they're this and this.
So
you know
this
what I mean?
Okay, this is something that confuses me actually because when I would watch it, right, aren't they supposed to be Moe, Larry, and Curly though?
Yeah, but like that's just their names.
But it's just a coincidence that they're different people with the same names.
Yeah,
like that's all. That's it.
Yeah, like they're just playing different characters in every film.
Right.
You know what I mean? They just keep their first. Sometimes they don't have those first names.
The only difference is, unlike normal actors, they just don't even change their shtick with the like. They're not like I'm trying to be this character.
No,
like,
there's
it's
no
like
method acting.
It's like no, I'm just Larry. It's like I'm just Larry if his job was this.
I'm just Larry.
Right. It's like, or I'm just Moe if my job was this.
One of the most famous ones from the Curly era was 1936's Disorder in the Court. That's one where they're on
I've
trial.
seen that one like a million times.
Yeah, and that's a very good Curly film.
Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Huh? Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Are you trying to give me the double talk?
Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Why don't you answer him?
He's talking pig Latin. I don't know what he's saying.
He's asking you if you swear...
No, but I know all the words.
He's asking you if you'll swear to tell the truth.
Truth is stranger than fiction, Judgy Wudgy.
And then in the 40s, the Curly era was still going strong. A couple of my favorites there are You Nasty Spy, where Moe actually becomes the first person on film to parody Adolf Hitler.
Yes, which was a thing at the time.
1940?
Because they were their
41.
The enemies, and the idea was, what if we make fun of him on the movies, so, for morale, right?
Yeah.
We must extend our neighbors a helping hand. We will extend them 2 helping hands and help ourselves to our neighbors. Bevla, 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 Bevla.
This You Nazi Spy, and it had a sequel, I'll Never Heil Again. Of course it did. Where Mo plays the fictional dictator of Moronica.
Yeah.
Moronica for Morons, it was called. And Curly is like it's supposed to be Mussolini. And Larry's there.
How much you want to bet?
It's really well done.
These Stooges things were taken to the troops later as, like, again, morale boosters.
Very well may be, Quinn.
It seems like very obvious that the U.S. military pack these 2 reels in and take them,
sure,
during the rest times and show them off in the tents or whatever, right?
Sure, no, you're right. This is a really good one, though, the I'll Never Heil Again and You Nazi Spy. There was also a Plumbing We Will Go, which may be my favorite.
Oh my God, this one, yes.
Stooge short. One of, anyway. This is
like
where...
irrational pipes.
Yeah.
Like don't make any sense at all. Like, how did it even build that?
I beg your pardon.
Why, what'd you do?
I'm taking a bath.
Taking a bath?
A bath.
Bath? You gotta get out of here. I'm gonna shut off this water. Now get going.
This is so good. This is where the Stooges are like... they're on the run and they steal a plumbing truck.
Right.
And then they pull up to a rich house and the butler's like, I called you plumbers an hour ago.
Yeah.
They're like, we're plumbers. Well, fine. We'll be plumbers. And of course they don't know what the hell they're doing.
It's just like a fucking disaster.
It's a brilliant episode. This is where Curly builds the big maze of pipes.
Is this where does the tub go through the floor or some shit?
Curly falls through the floor in this one,
Yeah.
but I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great episode, or great film, I should say. Short.
Whatever you want to classify them as.
There's also What's the Matador, where Curly is a bullfighter. I think that's pretty famous, like visual. Curly with the bullfighting hat or whatever. But I want to talk about the shorts again real quick. They made a lot in the same vein that just didn't star the Stooges. So, like, they were the flagship, but they had, like, tons of two-reelers that had people like Billy Gilbert.
What?
Not to be
for
confused.
OVP fans, you know what the hell that reference is.
Buster Keaton, though, and a bunch of...
Joe is showing me a poster with Billy Gilbert.
Yeah,
on
I'm not making that up or
real.
anything. But basically, and this goes back to what I was saying earlier, the Stooges weren't unique or groundbreaking. It's just that they were very good at it.
And I would say they became like a brand in the 30s, right? It was like they were a known commodity, and I'm sure for theater goers at the time, you know, you'd walk in and be like, "Oh, the Stooges are on," and like you'd be comfortable, right?
Yeah, because I think they were doing 8 films a year,
right?
So
and
like
these were playing in movie houses, you know, because remember we talked about the studio system, and the studios were owned by the you know. The studios own the movie theaters, yada, yada. And even small towns, there was the one movie theater, whatever. So I'm sure a lot of people got to see these across the country.
Absolutely right. Yeah.
Wherever you lived. If you lived in Kansas or if you lived in New York City, you were seeing these Stooges films, right?
And everyone could relate to them because it's just basic humor. I mean, again, it's for its time, especially, it was very violent a lot of the time. It was very crude. It was very lowbrow. But that was the point. They weren't trying for anything other than that.
You had to probably be a really bad movie back then for people to leave the theater and be like, wow, the Stooges was better than the feature.
Yeah, right.
It was like, what?
It wasn't like held up as like this tremendous like work of art.
Right.
But they were funny. There were a lot of reused sets, reused jokes.
I'm sure there was.
Yes.
I can't
reused
imagine.
Footage.
I cannot imagine that the budget was high on any of this.
No, they were very low.
Right.
Because you got to think about it. These are 15 to 17 minute movies.
Right.
That are filmed usually in 3 days.
And they're probably using whatever's left that the studio has. It's probably reused from other movies that they were doing.
No, you're
They're
right.
just there, you know.
Yes.
Oh, we need a bar, or we need a
courtroom
or whatever. You probably, if you were an eagle eye, you could figure out that courtroom was used in some other movie, right?
Oh yeah, they were using stuff that was already in production from other Columbia films. They were repurposing stuff all the time because the idea was just to get it into the theaters. Their most famous theme song, they had several until 1938. Most notably was Listen to the Mockingbird, which was like their main one for a while, but was Three Blind Mice. That became associated with the Stooges.
My head was already humming.
Yeah, that started in 1938 for anyone curious and would continue for the rest of their films.
Interesting.
I also want to mention some of the shorts starred the one and only Shemp Howard.
Shemp by himself.
Solo Shemp. Now, again, this is not something that...
I don't think I've ever even seen Solo Shemp. Like, who shows this? Like,
no one does, and
where
this
can
is
you
the
even
thing.
find this?
Because of the ubiquity, I snuck that one in, of the Three Stooges, specifically Mo, Larry, and Curly. And we're talking about a period of time from that, again, is 90 years ago,
right?
80-something years ago. Shemp as a solo commodity is not something that people now are going to know about.
Right.
But it is an honest-to-goodness fact, Quinn, that in the 30s and 40s, he was in a ton of films, feature-length films, with people like John Wayne and all sorts of people.
But in his time, was he considered good?
Yes.
Like, really?
Yeah.
In his solo?
Yeah.
Then why did he end up going back?
That's the next thing. So, Curly Howard, who I will still say, despite my Shemp love, Curly is the best third Stooge.
Absolutely.
I'm not
I think so. There's no doubt about that.
Curly was the most unique. He was the most kid friendly.
He was the more lovable one of the three because Mo's just annoying and Larry doesn't do anything.
Yeah, Mo's like mean.
Yeah.
Larry's kind of just like dopey, like,
Yeah, Larry's just kind of there, like I said.
Yeah,
like,
he's just kind of there. Curly was the one that, would do like break dancing before that was a thing.
If anything, the kids were like coming into the theater, like who did they emulate afterwards was probably Curly.
Oh, it better be, right?
Yeah,
He's the one that barked like a dog. He's the one that went, whoa, whoa, whoa,
Like the things Curly's doing is the kind of things that the parents after they're like, could you please stop?
Yes.
Like, could you control yourself?
Right.
Stop being like Curly.
Well, my 7-year-old, I showed him the Stooges, right?
You will show me the Stooges?
I will show you the Stooges.
A couple of weeks ago, for the first time, loved it. Constantly laughing because it's very timeless, broad humor. But his favorite, take a guess.
Curly.
Yes.
I mean, come on.
He likes Shemp, but he loves Curly.
Right.
Big Curly fan.
Yeah, I would not. I have no doubt as a child that he's so easy to like.
Yeah, because he's like, whoa,
it's just childlike humor, right?
Right. So
most basic shit,
basic stuff, but it was very, very good for its time. No one was like that, really.
Well, he's acting crazy in the context of his time. Too.
Yes.
He's like people. When he's trying to think of what to do, he's probably saying to himself, "Okay, who would yell woo like what?
Right.
Like who would do that in our times, right?"
And he's also like a man child,
right? Yeah,
it's a really good character. Anyway. We're not talking too much about their personal lives, but Curly had a very tumultuous life. Not a very particularly happy person. He had been divorced a few times. He was big on carousing and wasn't a drunk, but he drank a lot, drank often, and he didn't eat well, and he was in very poor health by the mid-40s. So Curly, notably, if you watch the ones from 45 and 46, he's not quite the same Curly anymore. He's slower. He's just not as good anymore.
Hey, you know what we ought to do? Go somewhere for a nice long rest.
Yeah, we need a rest.
Yeah.
His health was failing, and while filming Half-Wit's Holiday, which is a remake of Hoi Polloi, which is the one where they have to fit into society, this is where they have a pie fight, which is another Stooge trope, is like the big pie fight with the elites. He had a stroke while sitting in the director's chair waiting for his scene. And this was released in January 47, Half-Wit's Holiday. But Curly's stroke was so debilitating that he had to take time away from the Stooges. So Curly Howard, the innovator, the most original, he did 97 shorts with Columbia.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Even by that point.
Yeah, 97.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
We're already jumping here. We're at 47. We've gone forward like 15 years.
Yeah, we're trying to be broad because, again, we can't cover every single film. It's not possible. Columbia, of course, wanted to keep milking their cash cow, the Three Stooges. So they needed a replacement for Curly.
Here we go.
Well, here's the thing, right?
I mean, we've already replaced Shemp, so it's not exactly like we haven't done this before.
It's true. Mo had no other option in mind but to ask Shemp, like, can you help us out here? Now, here's the thing. Despite what people think, Shemp was giving up a very successful career to do this crap.
Yeah.
I just want to be clear about that.
Now, but did
he moved on from this in the 30s. He was done.
Right. But because of the quantity of this, I wonder if this crap was very lucrative.
No.
No?
Because the Stooges never received a raise their entire run.
Are you serious? What?
So when they signed in 1934 with Columbia, their salary was $20,000 a year, which is a lot of money back then.
Back then, yeah. And in the 30s especially, they would have been like, that's like being a millionaire.
Yeah. And at this point in 47, they were still making $20,000 a year.
That's a problem because the Depression is over.
Correct. And so is the war.
Yeah. It's still a lot of money even in the 40s, though, $20,000.
It's still a lot of money, but after all they had done for Columbia.
Right.
You know what I mean? And
you would think their stature, at least, in that they're a household name, you would think, I don't know, $50,000 or something.
40?
Right. Yeah.
Something.
Right.
So Shemp, because he loved his two brothers, Mo and Curly, and Larry was like as close to them as family. You know what I mean? Shemp wanted to help out Mo and Larry and said, I'll rejoin this until Curly gets better.
Right.
Okay?
So he'll just fill in.
He's going to fill in. He had done it before, right? He was a talented comedian. A lot of people say, like, Shemp was a really good comedian. Those at the time, I mean. So they basically pasted his head over Curly's on the title card.
Essentially.
Yes.
Although pasting it that's what they did in the first place anyway.
Yes.
So, like, that's how the title cards worked.
Yes. So all of a sudden, if you went to whatever movie house and you saw a Three Stooges film, you were greeted with three blind mice. But now instead of Curly and Larry and Mo...
Attaboy, Chopper. That's doing your stuff.
Bring up your right hand. That's it. Bring it up again. Now try the left.
Fright Night was the first one. It's where Shemp plays a boxer. Now, there was a very touching one known as Hold That Lion. Hold That Lion is a 1947 short with Mo, Larry, and Shemp. But you know what was unique about this one, Quinn?
What?
Curly, who was in the process of, trying to recover from his stroke, he visited the set while they were filming Hold That Lion, and the director, Jules White, said, why don't we do a little cameo for you? So in Hold That Lion, there's a sleeping passenger on a plane doing a woo snore.
What is that, a Cocker Spaniel? No, I think it's just a Spaniel.
And it's Curly, and it's the only time...
Curly has his hair, too.
And he has hair.
Obviously, he wasn't going to cut it.
No, he wasn't working.
Yeah.
It's the only time Mo, Larry, Curly, and Shemp are all on screen together. It's like a nice little cameo.
He doesn't even look that bad in that picture.
No, he was still able to talk and get around in 47, but he could certainly not be Curly anymore.
Right. I'm sure the physical humor was very difficult for him after a stroke. Maybe he probably still had his head, but he didn't have his body anymore, right?
Pretty much. And sadly, he had another series of strokes in the later 40s. And in 1952, that's it, at the age of 48, Curly Howard passed away.
Oof, man.
That was a rough time for Mo and Shemp, obviously.
Right,
that's their brother, their youngest brother.
And Larry to a certain extent, because you said he was practically part of the family.
Yeah, he was like family to them. They loved Larry, you know? But the films obviously were still going. I'm just going to shout out a couple more names of Shemp ones that I really like. Brideless Groom, that's probably the most famous one because it's in public domain, like Disorder in the Court. Brideless Groom is the one where Shemp needs to get married so he can inherit $500,000, and the women keep coming to interrupt when he's going to get married. It's hold hands, you lovebirds, and all that.
Hold hands, you lovebirds.
There's also a really, really, really good one called Who Done It. Now, Who Done It is a mystery one. And Quinn, you and I, you probably don't remember this, we watched this one together.
We did?
When we lived together.
Like I said, a lot of them in my head, Joe, I'll be completely honest with the audience here.
Yes.
A lot of them are just the courtroom one to me.
Well, that's one of the quintessential ones.
Yeah, it's the one I always remember.
There's a bit, though, here in Who Done It. This is considered maybe the best Shemp one, where it gets so silly at the very end. It's a murder mystery, and I'm just going to play the clip. I know you can't see it, folks, but bear with me.
They're all covered.
They're shooting guns.
My furniture, be careful!
Here I am, Mo. Whoa! Shemp, are you okay?
And it's just a very...
Even the lady got knocked out.
Yeah. That's the lovely Christine McIntyre. It's just a very, very well-written one. And if you're a Stooge casual out there listening, and you're like, oh, Shemp, they stink, I don't like the Shemp ones, watch Who Done It, watch Brideless Groom, Watch Hot Scots where they're in Scotland. That one's very funny too. There's a lot of crime, mystery. Like, it's a different feel during the Shemp era. It's not like the Curly ones where they're laborers in the Depression.
Right, yeah. Well, I mean, it's also the times too, right?
That's what I mean.
Because they did have to, like, okay, like, the Depression is over.
Yes.
The war is over.
We're in the baby boom now.
Right. It's like the country's booming. Now we got to do different stuff.
And they did.
You can even, like, even the way that one's filmed, it's got a little more gloss to it, I would say, than what you just showed me than usual, to the point of, like, to me, it reeks of, like, you know, prime America, like, where it's like, you know, like, it was the boom times, right? It's like people are in fancy clothing and you know, even the set's nice and shit. Like,
yeah, they actually look pretty good in the 40s.
Right,
They do. So the one thing about the Shemp things is for such a long time, and Quinn is right that it's more of a recent thing where people have started to appreciate Shemp, but it's only because there was less footage of the Shemp ones accessible back then because they usually ran Curly ones on TV.
Like you said, there was like 97 of them with Curly. It's like that has to outnumber the Shemp ones by a fair margin,
It
right?
did. No, it did. You're right about that. It does. Shemp wound up doing 78.
Right.
He did a lot, but
he didn't catch Curly.
He didn't catch Curly, but usually they would run the Curly ones on TV. And in the 80s, when the Stooges had their big renaissance,
right,
everyone talked about Mo, Larry, Curly, Larry, Curly. But it is a discredit to the fill-in work that Shemp did, reluctantly rejoining, reinvigorating the team, and like the new style and Shemp's own comedy where he isn't emulating Curly. He's not trying to be Curly. He predates Curly.
I'll say this. The other thing about Shemp that personally bothered me about him.
What?
He's like so wrinkly. He looks like he could be my grandpa or something.
It's
like,
great, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just like, I'm like, what? Like, he looks too old, and
he's not,
that's
though.
saying something with Larry over there with his big bald spot. But he just looks way older than all of them.
Shemp was very good at utilizing the way he looked to comedic effect. Like he
I've
knew
never
how he
seen
looked.
anybody with a face like that.
Yeah,
like,
he
it's just so
like a baked potato.
Yeah, it's like
Right?
so wrinkly.
He is
It's
wrinkly.
like what is going on there?
Oh, there I am, and as pretty as a picture. Yeah, but Nate.
Now we mentioned, Quinn, that two real comedies are cheaply produced, right? We already mentioned that. Another thing to know about them, folks, is by the 1950s, there's this new invention that is catching on for entertainment in the 50s. What is it called?
Television.
Yes. And also, as a result, a lot of the studios have not been doing two-reelers. Columbia was the only studio by the 50s doing two-reelers anymore.
So here's the thing that I never understood, right? Is the Stooges, if they were still going by this point,
which they were,
why are they not on television? This feels like for the TV companies of the time, you know, NBC, CBS, all them, these guys can't even fill the air. I mean, like if they could get the Stooges to produce, and especially their format of like 20 minutes or whatever they are, like it feels like it would fit perfectly into television, actually, and especially like Saturday mornings for children or something like that, right?
You're absolutely right, and the Stooges did film a pilot in 1949 for a television series known as Jerks of All Trades.
Right.
And it did have a studio audience, and there's a kinescope of it, and why don't we listen to a clip right now?
I do like the audience, actually.
Yeah. It's more like a stage play, you know?
Ink remover. But look at this! Oh, we'll have that off in a jiffy. You don't need that pocket anyhow. Go ahead. Why, sadly. There it is.
My best suit! And look at my shirt!
You don't need that anyway.
Insert that sound.
Yeah, they did. Oh.
Look here, Nickel Feather.
Penny Feather!
Do you realize you've just struck one of the toughest men from the state of Texas? Go ahead, tell him. Tell him. Now, look here, neighbor. Oh, wait a minute there, Nickel Feather.
Okay, but the point I'm trying to make is that it could have worked.
If he called him Quarter Feather on the next.
Dime Feather.
Yeah.
It could have worked. It could have worked. It's very. You notice how they're talking differently? They're doing it in stage, like they're projecting.
The format totally works.
Yes.
Especially the time.
Yes.
Right? It's like, wow, this is like tailor-made for TV.
You would think if they would have gotten picked up, but they didn't.
That's so bizarre.
They didn't, I know.
Do you think that the TV studios wanted stuff that was more new? And maybe they felt that the studios were a little old school?
I think so. This is still a throwback to vaudeville style.
Right.
You know what I mean? And
Do you
more
think
in the
they didn't think it was
now.
hip enough to be on television?
Possibly.
Which is saying a lot when you, again, we don't have enough content to fill
I
a
know.
day.
We need content.
Right. So you would think like, wow, we'll take anything, right? The Stooges want to do a TV show?
know.
Great. Right.
No, you're right. So we talked about how Columbia was the only studio operating the shorts department anymore in the 50s, right? Well, guess what they wanted to do? Cut costs. So what did they do? They had Jules White, the primary director by this point of the Three Stooges shorts, start reusing 70% stock footage and shooting a few new scenes in one day to make a new film.
Ew.
This started in 1953.
I don't like that.
They're not good.
Seriously, like how could they be?
They're not. And then, out of nowhere, on the way home from a boxing fight in the backseat of a car, 60-year-old Shemp Howard was telling a joke and had a heart attack and died.
Jeez.
November 55.
Life expectancy wasn't as long back then. I mean, it's still early, but...
Yeah, it wasn't as long.
But that's actually, like, I didn't realize he was that old.
Yeah, he was 60.
Yeah. That makes sense. They started in, like, 1900 or whatever.
Yeah,
so,
pretty
like,
much.
we're in the 50s now. Like, so...
Pretty much. So he did 78 total shorts with Columbia, but the last 4, because they were still under contract, this shows the great humanity of Columbia.
I mean, this is the studio system and how brutal it was.
So they had 4 left, and Shemp died. So they used their stock footage thing and used a stand-in by the name of Joe Palma to fill in for Shemp in a couple of scenes, seen from the back.
Shemp, that dame looks suspicious. You better follow her. Right.
This is poor.
He became known as a fake Shemp, which is still a term used sometimes.
So wait, on top of all the other dopes we're going to talk about here, there's a fake...
There's fake Shemp.
There's just fake Shemp?
Yes, but only 4 episodes.
What?
No, it's real. Fake Shemp. It's
like imposter Shemp?
Yeah, they used him like only occasionally.
I like how he's never looking directly at the camera. He's always the side.
The fake Shemp is like... You can look up, folks. Just look up fake Shemp, all footage, and there's like a compilation with
I like how
all
is
the footage.
He known among the fandom as fake Shemp or like doppelganger Shemp?
He's known
like,
as fake Shemp. No, I mean, Sam Raimi coined that term, the director.
So it's actually like a known thing. You didn't just call him
No,
fake Shemp.
I'm not even just calling him that. That's legitimately what it is fake Shemp.
That's funny.
And there was an article on it, like fake Shemp.
Yeah, fake Wiki
fake
World.
Shemp.
Fake Shemp.
Look up fake Shemp, folks. Yeah, one of the ones that's noticed is, speaking of Ed Wood, is in Plan 9 from Outer Space where Bela Lugosi and then like that chiropractor.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a fake Shemp.
Wait. It's the same guy that played fake Shemp?
No, I'm saying, but that's an example of a fake Shemp.
Gotcha.
The chiropractor that replaced Bela Lugosi.
Right.
Plan 9. That's a fake Shemp. Anyway.
We could do a whole thing on Plan 9.
The worst movie ever made.
Yeah.
Okay.
Here we go, Joe.
So, November 56, a year after Shemp died, his last film comes out, even though it's not him, it's fake Shemp, okay? 1956.
Now, I will just say, first of all,
What?
It is getting ridiculous that we are at 56 now. We are getting close to the 60s, and the Stooges are still doing things.
And Columbia is still operating this.
Yes.
This two-reel division.
This is starting to feel like a relic. We like two of them are dead.
Yes.
Like it's
The
like
two good ones.
Yeah. What the hell is going on here?
So
Larry looks old as shit, by the way, in this picture. I'm just saying.
Mo and Larry want to continue as the two Stooges.
Mm-hmm.
There's no more Howard brothers. Columbia says, absolutely not. You need a replacement. So somebody that was already under contract to Columbia, which was one of the stipulations. I want to be clear about this gentleman I'm about to mention. He had already had a career. He was a regular on Abbott and Costello.
I'm telling you, I want you to play cowboys with me. Go on, play with him.
He's also well regarded as a talented comedian.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. However, he was kind of shoehorned into an act that he had nothing to do with. And his name is Joe Besser.
Yes, or just Joe.
Or just Joe.
This sucks. I'm just gonna say it right now. Just the title card, right? Joe Besser. This doesn't even feel like an authentic Stooges thing. Like he doesn't even look like them. Like you know what I mean? Like
it feels out of place, right?
Right. It's like he just looks like some fat bald guy, whatever. Right? It's like
I mean, he is.
It's like if they just made me the third Stooge. Like I don't look
Larry
like
Moe.
I don't look like them.
I know he's a little too tall.
And I didn't even try to mess up my hair. I just showed up like the way I always look. and I was just you just put me in there, right? That's it.
No, I understand. So what we're gonna do is just give a very quick clip here of the Stooges out of context. This is from Quiz Whiz. We'll just take a listen.
He gypped some poor man of his TV winnings last night, so he fired him.
Yeah, we're the guys he gypped. Let's go to the police. We'll have them catch that
Why is Larry's hair
wait
good
a
in
minute,
this?
boys.
Like, it's upsetting.
You look like nice fellows, so
It's okay. Because they, for some of the Joe Besser ones, they have like the neater hair, like Mo combs his back.
This is very off-putting that Larry's hair
like
isn't insane.
Yeah, like Larry has the slick hair for some of them.
we're going to take care of you.
Oh boy, they're going to take care of us.
Yes, there's an eccentric old millionaire who's very lonely. He would like to adopt some nice boys. His name is Montgomery M. Montgomery.
Oh boy, we'll be Montgomery's wards.
Yeah, correct. Now,
So here's the deal with Joe Besser, okay?
It's like a bad joke, by the way.
Oh, well, a lot of them are.
Yeah.
Joe Besser's comedic persona, especially on Abbott and Costello, where he portrayed Stinky, was...
Boy, what a
I know.
accomplished career. Stinky.
He was a very, very fresh comic for his time, which was the 30s and 40s, okay?
Right.
Like, he had this kind of goofy, effeminate character, and
Right.
not in a derogatory way, but he was just like, not so loud, not so hard, you know what I mean?
Childlike is
Yeah,
what I
he's like
got
a
out of
man.
that.
Yeah, he's very childlike.
So it's more like Curly, so, you know.
A little like Curly.
Without the woo-woo.
But he wasn't really as much of he wasn't a slapstick comedian.
This guy doesn't look like that. I can't imagine.
You know what the problem is? And this is not a discredit to Mo, Larry, Shemp, Curly, or anyone. He's really probably overqualified for the genre.
Yeah.
He's more of a nuanced comedian. Like, he's a funny comedian.
He just feels like a scab. Like,
Yeah.
it's just like, what is this?
Replacement player, right? Now, the other thing, too, is the Stooges are very old by 1956 and 7. Like, they're getting up there in age.
Well, I mean...
So their slap ain't sticking as much anymore.
Oh, you're not going to do that to me.
What's the matter? You afraid?
Yes.
Now, Joe Besser, there's a misconception that he did not want to be hit, and he had it in his contract that he couldn't be slapped by Mo. It's not really true. He just didn't want to be hit as much,
I
okay?
see.
Because he wasn't a slapstick comedian. That's all.
It's called slapstick for a reason.
It is. Now, they only made 16 films with Joe Besser. Okay, so remember, 97 Curly, 78 Shemp, 16 Joe Besser.
Okay.
8 for 1957, 7 for 1958. One of them was released in 1959. The Last Joe Besser, Sappy Bullfighters, which is a remake of What's the Matador with Curly as the bullfighter. Right. A lot of these are remakes. A lot of these use stock footage from the Curly or Shemp era.
We're pasting stuff together to save money, yes.
But the ones that
Studio system is collapsing, by the way.
It is. A lot of the ones that are new with all new footage is where Larry has like the good hair and Mo has slick hair. And they're actually more like a sitcom and they're more fresh.
I've noticed.
Yes. They're more sitcom-y.
Yeah.
There's also like this plot where there's a talking horse that's like their sister.
I don't want to know.
You don't want to know?
Yeah.
Okay. So anyway. I mentioned that the last one was released in 1959, right? However, it was filmed in 1957. They just had a staggered release schedule.
Gotcha. So it was just in the can.
Yes.
Literally.
On New Year's Eve of 1957, Columbia finally closed its shorts department. They were the only one that even had one by this point. And like I said, the Stooges, even until 1957, never had a raise.
That's crazy.
Never once.
It's crazy that they kept going, that they didn't be like, we're not doing this anymore. It's like, what the fuck? The country's prospering right now. It's a boom period. Why are we not getting paid more?
Columbia basically never let them know how popular they were and how much money they made for Columbia.
Really?
They basically shielded them from that. But the Stooges did make other income.
Like just a seat. People were like, don't tell them. Like,
more or less. So with
didn't they have representation though? Like you would think.
Maybe.
Like,
I mean, and Mo was a very smart businessman.
Yeah,
he was.
I just mean to say is like, wouldn't their agents at some point be like, hey, we should look into this, right?
You would think, but I don't know what the deal was.
Yeah.
What they did do, you got to remember, they were only making 8-10 a year for the most, films. In the off times, they would do stage appearances, personal appearances. They made a lot of income doing their stage act.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like they were making no money. The movies was just one bit of their income.
Correct. They did fine, you know what I mean, financially. So they were going to go back to doing that now that they don't have a Columbia deal anymore. There's no more shorts. But Joe Besser, he was going to join Mo and Larry for the personal appearances.
Why?
he liked them personally. Like, he liked them. And he had also been a friend of Shemp in the 40s. I would think to
Besser, these guys would have been like legends or something by this point.
He was like, they mutual respected each other. It wasn't like, I don't think he looked up to them, but he didn't look down upon them. You know, like they were just mutual. But his wife got sick, so he amicably left the act to go care for his wife. So again, Moe and Larry needed a replacement.
Here we go. And probably the worst named one possible.
This time they brought in a gentleman that was born Joseph Wardell in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. For reasons that remain ambiguous, he changed his name to Joe Dorita, and it's crappy. Okay, like this is actually worse.
When your name sounds like Dorito, Curly, I always think of him as Joe Dorito.
Yeah, so do I. I always thought that as a kid.
Like, and I don't know if that's to make him seem zanier or something, right?
I don't know why he changed his name to Joe Dorita.
Yeah.
I really don't know why.
Yeah.
Doritos didn't exist yet, so it wasn't because of that.
Still, like, the name itself does sound, like, silly. And, like, I always got this impression that the Stooges, part of the act was, like, everything about you has to be silly if they're going to bring a new one in.
It's possible. I'll tell you what was...
And that's why Joe Besser, to me, stands out as terrible, because he just looks like an accountant or something.
He does look like one, but his persona's good. I want to be clear about Besser here. I think he's a bad stooge. I think he's funny, though.
Okay, fair enough.
I don't think that he is a bad comedian.
Right.
Didn't fit with the Stooges.
No, he just was not. He was totally out of place.
It was a different thing. But Joe Dorita, on the other hand, isn't even funny. This guy stinks.
Oh, yeah. He's like the worst stooge ever.
He's terrible.
Yeah.
Joe Dorita stinks. You know what he had? He's steady.
You know what's amazing to me is that for most of my life, I did not even know Joe Dorita was a thing until you explained it to me one day, and I was like, "This can't be real."
It's
real. Just his name alone, I was like, "Curly Joe Dorita? Who the fuck is that?" Like, what? And for my whole, I always thought when he would explain this guy to me that is he just pretend to be curly, basically? Like, what is he?
He's lucky he pretends to be a human. This guy's so boring. Okay, so he had been a burlesque performer and then had signed with Columbia in 1946. He made a few very crappy shorts with them. Yes, Joe Dorita solo shorts.
It looks like he's somebody's friend in the mafia. Like you know, in Goodfellas, Maury.
Yeah, I know Maury.
He's like that kind of dude. He's not really in the mafia. He's just like their friend.
Let's watch a Joe Dorita solo short from the 40s.
Oh boy.
Oh boy, what a day! What a day! Do I feel great? Start of another beautiful day. Friday the 13th. Oh my gosh.
Where are you going?
Back to bed.
Don't be silly. Why?
That's Christine McIntyre, who was also with the Stooges.
That's why. I'm not even going to the
This
store today. I'm
sucks.
not taking any.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
I watched this for research purposes.
He just looks like he's imitating a comedian. Like you know what I mean?
Yeah, he doesn't.
I'm going to be a comedian now.
He doesn't say anything funny.
It's like your friend if they wanted to get. They didn't have comedic timing. They just made a decision, right? Like they've been doing their regular job for 20 years or whatever, right?
Yes.
And they said, you know what? I'm just going to do a career change and I'm going to be a comedian.
Yeah.
Without any background or anything. That's what this
That's
seems
Joe
like.
Dorita?
Yes.
Well, unfortunately, he was deemed a suitable replacement by Moe and Larry.
Why?
I don't know. But here's the thing.
Could they just not get anybody?
I don't know how you replace Shemp or even Joe Besser at that point.
I just don't know. See, this is
who do you get?
Personal, if insert me back into 59 here, right?
Yeah,
and
please.
I'm just maybe somebody that could advise the Stooges, right? I would be like, first of all, you guys need to investigate how much this shit is worth, right? Second of all, you need to figure out if you can get royalties for this bullshit and then not make any more of them and just be able to retire comfortably in Hollywood and just, maybe go to the Academy Awards and wave or whatever, right? Is don't do anything.
I agree with you.
That's how they should and be and just make their image as legends. They do interviews or something,
Yes.
right? It's
I agree with
shit
you.
like that.
Well, here's what happened. There's no more shorts department. So they bring in Joe Dorita to the act for personal appearances and full-length films with Columbia. But we already had a Joe. Somehow we have another Joe.
Right, the second Joe.
So they had him shave his hair somewhat like Curly, and they called him Curly Joe.
Horrible.
So they made...
This Curly Joe Dorita business is just... It upsets me.
This will also upset you. all the feature full-length films they made with Joe Dorita. 1959, Have Rocket Will Travel.
Oh, it is the space age, Joe.
Yes. 1961, of course, Quinn, Snow White and the Three Stooges.
Look at him over there.
1962, the Three Stooges meet Hercules.
By the way, in color now, so it just seems crappier on top of it.
1962
These films were never meant to be in color. They are so cheap. Like, it just exposes the cheapness.
1962 again, the Three Stooges in orbit.
Boy, they're really leaning into the space.
They love the space.
No, I'll say this, though. The space was this was a big deal.
This is
Sputnik was in
Sputnik era,
59, right?
Yes.
It's like, so it's on the mind, right?
Yes. 1963, the Three Stooges go round the world in a daze.
You're showing me a DVD cover. This looks like the equivalent to a straight-to-DVD thing back then. Like literally.
You know the movie It's a Mad, 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 Mad World?
Yeah.
They made a cameo on that as firemen.
See, now this is what I would do.
This is what they should be used for, right?
Exactly. As like, hey, we know that's the Stooges, and that's like a cool cameo,
Yes.
right? Where you get a good laugh out of the crowd when the Stooges just appear in like another comedy movie, right?
And they don't even talk, I don't think, in this cameo, right?
That's what I mean. Is like that's like why like how they should have been used past this point,
I agree
right?
with
As
you.
like legends, and you see them in a comedy flick, and it's funny, right?
Yes, I totally agree. They even made a film in 1965, the year that the Beatles played Shea Stadium.
We're crossing into Beatles territory.
We are. The Outlaws is coming. This was a Western. You know who's in this?
Man, Mo looks like shit in this. Holy moly.
You know who's in this?
Who?
Adam West.
Are you serious? Batman himself?
Yes. I've seen this. It's not a good movie, but they're the Stooges, but okay.
Movie, in quotes.
Get my hand off this chair, will you? The hand? There you are. Not that one, the other one. No. What are you doing? What are you doing? What? This one. Come on, get this table out of the way. Make some room, will you? Okay. That's the one. I'll get it. What's the matter with you?
One thing to remember about this iteration of the Stooges is they are old men.
Yes.
By this point. They are not
Larry looks particularly old, too.
Yes.
Both of them look old.
They are not able physically to do what they did in the 30s and 40s anymore. So they're not as funny.
I feel like all of this like downgrade is a result of just not paying them correctly because they just had to keep going.
They did. They did.
Right?
Now, I do want to talk about TV again real quick.
Yep.
It was in the late 50s that TV stations made deals with Columbia. Can we please buy the rights to broadcast like these two real shorts to fill time?
Which, yeah, it's funny that like it's interesting that they attempted to do a show, but in the end they just settled for, wait a second, the Stooges things are already like, we don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
They just like play them.
You can put like 4 in an hour.
Right, yeah. Well, I mean, usually you can put 1.5 an hour.
You could. I mean, you have to have a lot of extra commercials because they're a little shorter, but
usually
you could.
They're 20 minutes, and then you can sell your Ovaltine in between or whatever what they were doing back then.
Why don't they call it Roundtine?
Yeah.
No, you're right, though. You're right. So that was actually very big for their popularity, and the Stooges, Mo, Larry, and Curly Joe, I generously call them the Stooges, they were able to capitalize on that with higher fees for their personal appearances, but also the new Three Stooges, which was cartoons.
Again, another good idea.
Yes.
This is actually what stuff they should be doing at this age.
Yes. Little cartoons.
Just give their voice to it, and there you go.
Now, these aired 65 to 66, which is, of course, the year that the Beatles played their last live show.
Notice I see season 3 on this or whatever.
They were short seasons, but yes.
I'm sure they were trying to get... Was syndication a thing yet back then?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I'm sure they were trying to pump those out as quick as possible to get the syndication.
Absolutely. And they also had these very short live action wraparounds that would just, kind of like Super Mario Brothers Super Show did.
Right.
Why don't we just watch like a quick one, okay?
Okay. Well, this looks like a 60s cartoon, low budget.
That rockhead, all he has to do is wash the lettuce.
He's smoking 3 cigarettes at once.
I think he's got a clothespin in his mouth.
Okay. I was going to say, this is for kids.
This is so 60s, by the way. Like,
yeah. Look how old they are.
This is not...
You realize it when they walk.
I know. There's no talking. Get to the talking.
No, come over here. I'll show you how. What do you mean, show you how? What do you mean, show you how?
God, Joe Dorito's so boring.
Yeah, he's just the worst.
You give it this business here, like that, see? That's the way you wash it.
The problem also is that the other two are just old as shit.
Mo and Larry are so old here.
So they like can't even like really like make him seem better.
I know.
Like,
They can't carry him.
Yeah.
You're right.
It's just like, we're trying to carry ourselves here. We're like 100.
And the other thing, too, is they did tone down all the slapstick anyway because of the kids.
Right.
So it's like a double-edged sword, you know? They appeared in a bunch of commercials at this time, which is another good use for them.
Step right up, young man. Tell you what we're going to do. Arthritis your trouble? Got the cure right here. The electronic calisthenic vaporizer cures arthritis with paramagnetic force.
And then, Quinn, they made another film, Kook's Tour, in 1969.
Oh, my goodness. Look, holy moly, at Mo. He doesn't, like, it looks like they painted his face on. It's horrible.
So can I tell you what this is?
This, you know what? Okay, I'm going to say a couple things here, right?
Yes.
Joe showed me a picture of this, and it just looks like, it's like, man, we really got to like cherish them, like they're old men, right? It's like they're not going to be around much longer, right? And like we got to take pictures and like this is like and treat them good and like, you know what I mean? Like look at this, right? It's like, doesn't this look like what it is?
Is this kind of like when Lucy did her last TV show in the 80s?
Yeah, where it's just like a courtesy. It's more like we need to like not take for granted what we have, right? Is like kind of situation,
folks,
like a pity thing.
I'm going to tell you about Kook's Tour, okay? Kook being Kook. The concept here is that is a travelogue where they go to Wyoming.
What?
And
on vacation,
and
or
they
something?
go on vacation because they're retired. Like they don't do slapstick anymore.
At least they acknowledge they're old.
But I watched. It's 51 minutes.
Holy moly, that's long.
It is one of the most boring things I've ever seen in my life.
But it's not done in a manner where it's kind of like more documentary.
It's done as a documentary, but they're in character, if that makes sense. Like,
so it's a mockumentary?
The characters have retired. Does that make sense? Like they're still...
Yeah.
Well, there we were, finally afloat and following a trail made famous by Lewis and Clark on that magnificent river called the Snake. It was our first real taste of blue water and fresh air. And believe me, it was delicious. Here we passed directly under Massacre Rocks, just a stone's throw from the famous Oregon Trail.
I would have liked a thing where like they talk to them interview them and like
that.
Show clips, and then maybe they are in Wyoming, like as the interludes,
No,
right?
it's
Like
not
they're kind
that.
of like relaxing or whatever.
It's played straight. So it's not
I don't
fun.
like that.
It's not entertaining. And here's what happened, though. Larry, old reliable, faithful, who had been there since the beginning almost, right?
Mm-hmm.
He had a stroke during filming.
Man.
He would be confined to a wheelchair the last few years of his life.
And how old was Larry here?
So when he had
he
his...
doesn't even look like Larry in his wheelchair anymore.
He was probably about 70 here.
Man.
When he had...
actually looks younger than 70, though.
Yeah, he's about 70.
Huh.
He sadly passed away January of 1975.
Wow.
At age 72. Mo's
still going, though.
Wanted to keep the act going by...
Come on, Mo!
By replacing Larry this time.
With whom?
With one of their most durable character actors from the 40s and 50s, Emil Sitka, who is very good, very good. He's Hold Hands, You Love Birds.
How old's he at this point?
He's probably like 10 years younger. They were going to have him play Harry.
Oh, my God. That's horrible!
Larry's brother.
Please tell me somebody talked them out of this. No!
They took pictures in 1975.
What the fuck?
In preparation for launching this new version of the team. And Emil Sitka, who again is really good and known among Stooge fans, he has like Larry style hair.
Right.
That looks crappier.
So they're just trying to like imitate.
We have like imitation Larry now.
This insistence that we keep going is getting a little weird at this point. Well, there's only one left.
The rumor has it is that they were going to be in a Mel Brooks film at the time known as Blazing Stewardesses, an R-rated film. This version of the act,
R-rated Stooges.
R-rated Stooges. However, sad note. Only 4 months after Larry passed away, Mo Howard, in May of 1975, died of lung cancer.
You know what that means, though? Every single one of them died while it was still going on.
Yes.
There was no retirement.
Nope.
That's crazy.
Mo never retired until the very end.
He literally was preparing for more.
Yep. Joe Besser, as an epilogue, passed away in 1988. Joe Dorita in 1993.
What the hell did Joe Dorita do after this? I can only wonder.
I'm so glad you asked. He did the new Three Stooges with Mousy Garner and some other guy, and it was really bad.
No.
Yeah, in the mid-'70s.
The fact that he's like the veteran that's
he was
left,
like the leader.
It's just like, what the? How does Curly Joe Dorita become the leader? That's horrible.
It didn't work. It clearly didn't work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And ML Sitka died in 1998, if you count him.
ML Sitka didn't even count. They didn't make anything.
He wasn't really a stooge, no.
He was going to be, but it didn't happen.
He was in so much of their shit from 46 onward, but he was never a stooge. You know, he was a supporting actor.
I don't count that. So really, all we got left is Dorita here.
Dorita, and he died in 93.
Okay, the final stooge.
The final stooge, technically, yeah. Now, there was a renewed interest in the Stooges. Quinn mentioned at the top there was a video game by Activision for Nintendo and Amiga.
This is one of
Commodore.
the weirdest fucking things because it's
it's
80
terrible.
Something. When did this come out?
I think 84 or 5.
No
87.
Way. Yeah, it had to come out the late 80s.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
87, I think.
This was a weird thing.
Used to rent it as a kid from the video store to play on my NES.
Yeah.
I loved it, and it's terrible, and I love it. Another thing happened, and we talked about how, Quinn, you've seen the Disorder in the Court episode a real lot, right?
Right.
So, for some reason in the 80s, 4 shorts, and only 4, lapsed into the public domain.
Does anybody know why this happened?
I don't know how, but there were 4 that lapsed into public domain. It was Disorder in the Court, Brideless Groom, Sing a Song of Sixpence, Malice in the Palace. Now, out of those 4, Disorder in the Court is the only Curly. The other 3 are Shemp episodes or Shemp shorts.
Well, that's a shame.
But every fucking 2-bit video store sold some variation of this tape, like Good Times, because you could, right?
Good Times.
Everyone showed this.
That could be an episode, just these weird
Good
ass
Times on video.
VHS brands.
Yeah.
It's just the worst shit.
And then, to add to the renewed interest, Mel Gibson did a pretty bad biopic.
Look at this. This is horrible.
Now, that is the commish himself, Michael Chiklis, as Curly.
Commish as Curly.
Yes. And the guy from Sex and the City as Larry. I can't remember. Evan Handler.
What?
And what's his face as
Why
Mo.
is Mel Gibson with them?
Oh, because he made the movie. It's actually, the performances are pretty good, but I don't like it. It's not accurate.
Oh,
the
my
movie's not
goodness.
accurate.
Oh,
that was in
my
the year
good-
2000.
In the year 2000.
And then about 12 years after that, the Farrelly brothers decided, let's do a reboot
Now,
of the Three
I'll
Stooges.
say this about the reboot. At least they sort of look like them. They actually got it somewhat.
And Will Sasso's a talented impressionist, so him playing
Will
Curly
Sasso,
is okay.
Yeah, Will Sasso was definitely the best part.
I think so. And it's also, what's his name? Sean Hayes? Is that his name?
Yeah.
As Larry?
Uh-huh.
From Will and Grace, right?
Right.
Who's Mo? Who the fuck is Mo?
That looks like Will.
It's not Will.
From Will and Grace.
It's not.
I don't
Who the
know.
hell played Mo? It's Chris Diamantopoulos.
Oh, him.
Yeah,
Okay.
him. All right. Anyway, the Stooges, to this day, are a comedy team that I love. Yes, it's probably true that people like Abbott and Costello and the Marx Brothers had more sophisticated humor.
I don't think they had the legacy.
They don't. Like, Abbott and Costello had Who's On First as their big thing, right?
Right, but outside of that, nobody gives a shit.
Right. And to this day, like, the Marx Brothers probably, the Duck Super team with the mirror thing?
Right.
Harpo, all that.
But that stuff's very strongly associated with, the 30s.
Yeah.
Nobody... The Stooges, went on forever.
They did.
I think that's why they're more well-known.
And all of their little bits, some of their stuff was original. The eye poke was original.
Mm-hmm.
Curly's mannerisms were original. They did have originality. It's just that, the concept of slapstick was not, they didn't invent that or something.
The thing that strikes me the most about them, though, that in an era of big Hollywood, they were, small.
Very.
Does that make there's something fascinating about it, right? That this shit was even going on
For
right?
this 25 years.
This cheap crap.
Yeah.
It's because it's not it's not like now where you can just film something with a fucking iPhone, which is probably the budget the Stooges had. If I filmed a movie on the iPhone would be the equivalent.
Probably,
right?
yes.
It's no, you had to have reels and people and stuff to do all of this.
And sets. And
Yeah, it's amazing for something like this, that it was like made this long for like
25 years
going. Like
25
it's
years.
insane.
Not to mention their full length.
Like you would
career.
think somebody would have just shut it off by like the end of the 40s.
Well,
like after Curly.
I know,
like
after Curly.
That they would have just been like, okay, this is already kind of weird that we're even making this, right? It's like,
I agree with you. But folks, that was a history, an overview, if you will, of the Three Stooges legacy. I love them, and I encourage all you out there to embrace your inner knucklehead, okay? And watch some Stooges now. That's your homework. Watch a couple of Curlys, watch a couple of Shemps, maybe one Joe Besser.
Don't.
Just for clarity. Yeah. Don't watch anything with Joe Dorita. He's terrible.
Awful.
I'm sure he was a nice man. I hate him as a stooge, though.
Yeah.
Like, I like Besser better. Like, Besser's at least a personality.
I give Besser a little bit.
A little credit, right?
Joe Dorita is like the bottom of the barrel. Everyone knows it.
He is. He stinks.
The fact that he's like the last one bothers me. Like that he outlived Mo.
Thank you guys so much for being with us here. Let us know what you think of the Stooges. We know some of you have really wanted this, all 8 of you have really wanted this episode for a long time. And I've been ready to do it for 2 years. I know Quinn was a little reticent and reluctant because of the disparity in, my nerddom and your casual nature. But we hope we did the Stooges at least some level of justice. Don't eye poke us, okay? But until next time, I guess we're coming back next week, right?
Perhaps.
If you're listening, we should be here. So thank you for being with us. Follow us on Twitter at AWM Podcast and join our Facebook group. We should be back next week for something completely different. But until then, again, watch the Stooges. My name is Joe Murata. That is Michael Quinn. We'll see you next time for more Acid Wash Memories.
See ya.
Like what you heard? Be sure to leave a review and subscribe on your favorite podcast app. We will see you next week.
At OVP Podcast. Yeah, that's the name of it.